We assume every faction has its own way of keeping their water radiation free. But what do we know? The vaults are easy. They have water chips, but not always. As Vault 13 have learned the hard way. Some vaults die of thirst. Others drown in water chips. A grand total of 420 chips can be found on the second floor of Vault 8, hidden in rooms that can only be opened with high lockpick or strength. Robert House sources fresh water for the strip from Lake Mead in the Colorado River, just as Vegas did before the war. The Big Empty provides clean, radiation-free water, potentially endlessly. We know this because once the sink's personality module is reactivated, it can dispense purified water directly to the user. Additionally, with an upgrade, it can infinitely fill empty bottles with purified water, effectively offering an unlimited supply of clean water. Though it is never explicitly stated, it is assumed by many players that the water is sourced from groundwater reservoirs with advanced pump technology, as befitting the otherworldly technological advancement of the Big Empty. It is a loss for all Wastelanders that they have cut themselves off from the world. Though this isolationism is probably for the best. They only ever interact with people outside their crater to kidnap new guinea pigs. All but twice, but that's not our story today. So what about the other factions? Well, they require a little more guesswork. The Enclave are the most technologically advanced faction that we know of, with mobile weapons platforms, superhuman artificial intelligences, and extraordinarily advanced power armor. The Enclave's origins lie in the pre-war American deep state, with its members being a continuation of the United States government. The greatest minds of pre-war America form its heart, and their descendants continue to walk America as the Enclave hundreds of years later, as descendants of the scientists who invented water chips. They definitely have water purification technology that purges radiation, especially when you consider their gene purist ideology. What we don't know for sure is just how many of them are out there. The Enclave could theoretically directly control dozens of vaults, each with hundreds or thousands of deeply loyal citizens inside. The Institute are the second most technologically advanced faction, specializing in synthetic persons. The Institute is similar to the Enclave, in that it is rooted in pre-war society, founded by survivors of the once famous Commonwealth Institute of Technology. Despite lacking the vast resources, manpower, and extensive facilities that the Enclave possesses, the Institute is still descended from some of the brightest minds of pre-war America. They also have access to teleportation technology, cybernetics, and even food synthesizers. Technologies which must seem synonymous with magic to the average wastelander. It seems obvious they too have the ability to purify water of radiation. But even if they didn't, and were constantly recycling an underground pre-war supply, such technology would be a simple task for their extensive science divisions. The Shi are the third most technologically advanced faction. They are the descendants of a Chinese nuclear submarine, lurking in the waters of pre-war San Francisco. They are probably a group you haven't heard much about, as they are present only in Fallout 2. Though, apparently, Conrad Kellogg once worked for them. Their faction primarily consists of reclusive researchers, preferring to stay out of local politics. However, despite their limited size and reach, the Shi still have access to particularly advanced technology, including but not limited to advanced energy weapons such as laser rifles, and refurbished American T-51B power armor. They are also synthesizing a new biofuel from plant extracts and sea life, rediscovering nuclear power, and creating radiation-resistant plant life. Like the Institute, however, they are limited to operating out of their headquarters, and lack both the resources and manpower to reach beyond their home state. Such a lack of resources and manpower will stifle their technological growth, compared to other factions, especially as time goes on. They are, regardless, certainly technologically advanced enough to purify their water supply of radioactive contaminants. The Brotherhood of Steel are the fourth most technologically advanced faction. They are structured akin to a quasi-religious paramilitary dedicated to preserving technology and regulating its use. Many consider them to be heroes, blasting the wasteland of irradiated horrors, while others think of them as little more than selfish hoarders or glorified raiders in power armor. Their doctrine has changed somewhat over the years, alongside whichever elder and whichever chapter you are dealing with, despite focusing their reclamation efforts on military technologies and equipment. One must bear in mind they are still advanced enough to field and repair power armor. And one time, outside of Chicago, a tank, to say nothing of Liberty Prime. 2 Liberty Primes. And at least 1 fusion-powered Zeppelin. If you can produce the fuel, ammo, and materials necessary for such weapons of war, you likely possess a minimum of small-scale water purifiers, as such things would be easier to make. The followers of the Apocalypse are arguably the fifth most technologically advanced faction, heavily centered around educating wastelanders in the use of more basic technologies. In agricultural practices, their members are descended from multiple vaults, whose collective aim was to rediscover old medical technologies, whilst developing new ones for the post-war world. Their knowledge and expertise was instrumental in handling a great sickness, which spread quickly throughout Los Angeles, since renamed to the Boneyard. Eventually, with the help of the NCR and other allies, they founded the only known fully fledged educational institution.
Yes, I am. I received my medical training at the Angels Boneyard Medical University back in the NCR. It's not a requirement to be a follower to enter the university, but I believe in what they do, so I joined them.
The technologies they have access to range from agriculture, medical care, information technology, robotics, and much, much more. It is likely they have knowledge of varying kinds of water purification technology, from both the lower and upper end of the technological spectrum, a reflection of their adaptability and thoroughly tested methodology, while surviving the cruelty of the wastes themselves, often without basic supplies. If a new, burgeoning faction wanted to gain some kind of water purification technology, it is the followers who are the most likely faction to offer such technology. At a price, of course.
It's very expensive, however. 12,000 caps.
As for smaller groups, like the Minuteman and the Railroad, it is possible that Sturges and the eccentric Tinker Tom could both build water purifiers. There are only 3 water purifiers in all of post-war Boston. The anomaly of Diamond City's only water purifier, somehow run by a child. The non-functioning water purifier at the abandoned ruin of University Point, and the reclaimable water purifier at the castle. However, its existence implies that the Minutemen were able to acquire a water purifier. It is not proof they can build one. The Railroad headquarters has nothing at all. The lone survivor builds all other water purifiers, and since they are player-placed objects, they are not canonical. Hand water pumps, found across the Commonwealth, pump unirradiated water. But we don't know how recently the radioactive elements have left the local water cycle. Sturges could be responsible for the purifier at the castle, but we can't know this for certain. Sturges can, however, build a teleporter that gets you into the Institute. How the local handyman can do this is as confusing as his origins, which begs an even bigger question. If he can build them, why hasn't he? I have omitted 30 minutes delving into the man for another time. I do not wish to disrespect your time, considering the video is already so very long. In writer's terms, this would be called killing your darlings.
The last 2 factions are more than lone chapters in bunker networks, but 2 warring nation-states, the NCR and the Legion. Everyone else is assumed to either lack the ability to figure out the technology, not care to try and figure it out, or have it in some limited capacity. That is not always reliable, until it inexplicably is. But we'll get to that.